This video is going to talk about decimals. To answer the question, what is a decimal? It's very similar to a fraction, where it's a way to represent part of a whole. So if we look at these over here, this top square, that's one whole square. If we were to shade in 3 columns of it, then that would show that it's part of it. If we count them, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns. And of this, we have 3 out of the 10. So we would read that as 3/10, which can be written like this. And we're going to practice that. It sounds like we say it. It's part of a whole, though, similar to a fraction, which is also written as 3/10. If we look down here, this square, again, is one whole, but it's split up into many different parts. You'll notice that it's 10 by 10. So there are 100 pieces within this one. So if we were to shade the same 3 and then 2 more, this would be 10, 20, 30, 32 hundredths, which is 32 out of 100. But as a decimal, we would write it as 32 hundredths. So again, a decimal is just another way of representing part of a whole. Very important question. What is the most important thing to think about with decimals? It's always, always, always a two-worded answer. The most important thing whenever we are dealing with decimals is place value. The decimal itself will help us because it's going to help keep ordered all of the place values, all the digits in the number, but the place value is the most important thing. So we're going to start with our place value. The decimal point here marks that middle. Everything to the left, that's a whole number, or greater than 0. Everything over here is from 0 to 1. So excuse me, this is greater than 1. And everything that exists in here is going to be between 0 and 1. You'll want to write down the place value of this. If we were to make up a number, let's say we have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8. The 4 would be in the ones place. So we would have 4 ones. The 5 is in the tens place. The 6 is in the hundreds place. And the 7 is in the thousands place. You'll notice that all of these numbers just end in an S. Okay? If we go this way, the decimal point, it kind of looks like a reverse order of this, except we skip the ones place. So this first one is going to be the tenths place. Notice this time it ends in THS, whereas before it was just an S. The 2 is in the hundredths place. Again, it ends in that THS. The 1 is in the thousandths place. Thousandths place. Again, THS. And then the 8 is in the 10,000ths place. Those are the most commonly used one. You'll find more on the posters in the classroom. But we're going to use those words and those place values to help us write these decimals using those words in word form. Every time we see the decimal, we read it as the word and. So the decimal is read as the word and. So we would read this as 0 and 3 And then we're just going to say the place value that the 3 is in. Well, the 3 is right next to the decimal to the right, which is in the tens place. So we would put tenths here, making this decimal 0 and 3/10, read mathematically. The next one, again, we would start at 0 and this time we're going to read the full number just as if the front part weren't there, which is 36, so that's what we write. And again, we're looking at that last digit. Well, that last digit, the 6, is 2 digits over, so it's in the hundredths place. And that's what we write, hundredths. Make sure that it's ending in the THS because it's the decimal portion of it. For the next one, again, we start as 0 and we read the full number, 364. We put no more ands. The and is only when there's a decimal. There isn't any more decimals, so we're not going to use that word again. So we would say 364 as if we covered up that decimal portion. And then our final word is saying the place value of our last digit, which was 123 from the decimal, 123 in the thousandths place. So that is our last word. $364 thousandths. And when we hear that THS, that'll remind us that it is a decimal. If we try a few more, this one, we'll go to this one. This one's a new place value. Again, we start with the 0 and if we covered that decimal part up, this 0 really doesn't add any additional value. So we read it still as 306. And then our final word is telling us the place value of that 6. Well, this is tenths, hundredths, thousandths, making this 10 thousandths. So then that digit, or that number, that decimal, would be read as 0 and 306 ten thousandths, telling us that we would have 306. If the 6 is in the 10 thousandths place, there would have to be a 0 in front before the decimal, because the 10 thousandths place is the 4th place value after or to the right of the decimal. If we had other whole numbers other than 0 to the left of the decimal, instead of saying 0, we would just read it as the number that it's listed. So in this case, this one would be listed as 6 and 14, and the 4 is in the hundredths place, so we follow it up with hundredths. If we look at this one down here, we have to be really careful, because we have more than just the ones place. We have the ones, the tenths, and the hundreds place, and the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So down here, we would read this as 504. Again, the decimal is the only time we say and. So it's 504 and, because that's our decimal, and then we read the at to the right of the decimal as if it weren't a decimal at all. 457 and to show and prove that it's a decimal, we have to say the place value of that last digit. This is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we end it with saying thousandths. Again, make sure it's got the THS showing that it is a decimal number. Same process for this last one. A big number, but we treat it the same. We read that as 13,064 and only written at the decimal. So it's a bit longer, but that's okay. 13,064 and then we cover up the front part, and we would read those last 4 digits as if it were in the thousand place. 1,634. And then to show that this part after the word and was a decimal, we have to say the place value of this. 4 tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000ths. It's important that you know how to read a number mathematically using all of its place value, because that'll help you with rounding, writing it as fractions, and many other concepts within math. The only time we say and is when we are at the place where the decimal is. The decimal is the only place where you say and. To the right of the decimal, you read it as a regular number and then prove or show that it's a decimal, or to the right of the decimal, by saying the place value of that last digit. Well, the 4 is in the 10,000ths place, so that's how we ended it. The 7 up here was in the thousands place, so that's how we show this part was a decimal. Same thing with the 14. We show that it's to the right of the decimal, part of a whole, by saying hundredths with that THS.